Welcome to Talking Giants presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick, and we got to talk about some cuts. The Giants are starting to clear some cap space. They cut Kyle Rudolph and Devonte Booker. More stuff is on the way, and we got a little combine roundup.
No, not really.
I know. Just trying to trigger Justin. Kind of frustrated. Maybe the combine schedule was this way last time, and I just forgot, but I wish that we had seen more combine stuff.
It's been 2 years, so, they didn't have the combine last year, and then, it was right before all the Corolla stuff started. Hi, Bobby Skinner. This is the first time in Talking Giants history, might be the first time in, my podcasting history, that I am currently watching you, listening to you, but I'm also watching the combine, because right now, the second group of QBs are running their 40. Malik Willis, the one that I'm most enticed by not being one of them, but I really want to see him throw, even though how much does it mean? I don't know. NFL Network also had a really, really funny shot, zooming in on Kenny Pickett's hands, with them
got
being
little baby hands,
8.5 inches, and I started hysterically laughing before we recorded this. Hey, producer, get a zoom in shot on his hands. I'm good. This is not a combine roundup, even though you promoted this episode the entire week as it being a combine roundup. I guess that'll be Tuesday. How are you?
I'm doing all right. We're kind of in this weird part of this offseason where it's like the only news is going to be getting rid of guys. So it's saying goodbye to players. Some are very good riddance. Some are tough decisions. And some are moves you want to see happen, even though, it's going to suck. I know we talked a lot about the Saquon trade possibility on the last podcast, but it's it is going to suck to see Saquon. I know some other people, hate him because of where he was drafted. There is fans who just do not like Saquon Barkley at all. But it's it does suck that, we're going to trade Saquon for really not a great return, or maybe won't. A player who could have been really great. Regardless of his position. Injuries have held him back. So it's that weird type of the season. And we'll talk about Shep possibly taking a pay cut, even though the more I think about it, the less I think it's likely. Before we get into all that stuff, Kyle Rudolph, Devonte Booker, this episode was brought to you by Gabriel. It's Gabriel, not Gabriel. Garcia, Jake Fleury. Do they still have the McFlurry at McDonald's?
I don't know. I know Shamrock Shakes are back. Don't know how long, though. Get them.
I didn't even know that was a thing. And then we got Pew Morgan. It's a two last names lawyer type guy, Ben Pew Morgan. Who are these people, Justin?
All these wonderful people went to patreon.com/TalkingGiants. $2 a month plus some other tiers. You get to hang out with us live. I gave a John Boy Media behind the scenes nugget before we went live. Not really a big nugget, but we sometimes do that to our Patreon subscribers. Hang out with us, watch the show live. Bobby will send you some stickers and magnets in the mail. And you get, what else? 2 times a month shirt raffle. Or if I already said that. Patreon.com/TalkingGiants. This show is also brought to you by Rutgers and Bo Melton. Is that guy's name? The wide receiver?
Yes, that's his name.
That dropped a lot of balls at the Senior Bowl?
In the range. The Giants have saved $7.4 million in cap space. They still have $5 more they have to go just to start free agency, because they have to, the top 51 rule where you have to be under the cap. But it started with the big one, which is Kyle Rudolph, who was 32 years old. Justin signed a 2-year, $12 million deal, saves $5 million with $2.4 million in dead cap. This probably is the most frustrating signing of last offseason. Kenny Galladay, I think that contract can still be defended. Adoree Jackson was a really good signing. There's some other ones that are questionable, the Devonte Booker one's questionable, but you're not losing your mind over the Devonte Booker one.
No.
This one just never made sense. And it's not even just because of him performing so badly. Even if Kyle Rudolph played a little better than what he did, this one never made sense because they never moved off Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram, who had career lows in yards per catch and yards per game this season, who people Evan Ingram had a bad year, but because he didn't drop a lot of passes, he kind of doesn't get noticed. But he had a bad season. And as soon as we signed Kyle Rudolph, Justin, what were our conversation on this podcast? They got to be moving off Kyle or Evan Ingram, right?
Yep.
It doesn't make sense.
Especially for the price tag, by the way. It was okay. You bring in Kyle Rudolph. Sure, he can be a tight end too that is really serviceable, and you have Caden Smith in here. The Giants do like to run, a lot of that 13 personnel. They also still had Devontae Lolo at the time, who they restructured to keep on the team, which is part of the head scratching situation. So you look at that headline on the surface, especially Kyle Rudolph, plus side of 30. If I'm correct, he caught 1 touchdown pass in 2020. He became a tight end too with the Minnesota Vikings, with kind of Irv Smith taking over a little bit more. So, okay, bringing Kyle Rudolph, it's not a necessity for the Giants, but then you look at the price tag, and that's where it's like, oh, not great.
Yeah, it never made sense financially, given the guaranteed money, him having the foot injury before the contract, them figuring out, they found out, oh, you're going to have to have surgery, this needs surgery. And they're like, no, we're not going to change a single thing about your contract. Not a single thing was changed about that contract because we're the New York Giants and we do things with class. Well, guess what? We're cutting them a year later with class. Yeah.
Did things with class, yet you have guys like, Scott Simonson saying they screwed me over with this injury and that injury. I get it. It's a difference between being the 53rd guy on the roster and a $10 million player. But still, if you want to say that you're going to do things with class, then be about it all the time.
Kyle Rudolph played a lot of snaps, and he was a good blocker. I'll give him credit for that, at least. Yeah. But 2019, Caden Smith averaged 14 more yards per game as a rookie waiver claim. It was added, in season, Caden Smith, or right before the season started, Caden Smith averaged 14 more yards per game. Oh, but, well, guess what? In 2 of those games, Caden Smith played a combined 13 snaps. So in games he started, he averaged 30 more yards per game. 30 more yards per game out of a rookie waiver claim in games that he started. You kept Evan Ingram. You restructured Levine Toilolo to give him guaranteed money, and he played less than Caden Smith. So going into the season, forget Levine Toilolo's injury, your 4-string tight end was given guaranteed money when you didn't have to give him a single penny. You didn't have to give him a single penny, but they took the pay cut to give him their guaranteed money, and they didn't. They weren't never going to use him. If this tight end group stayed healthy, Levine Toilolo would have gotten no snaps. He would have been the 4-string tight end. He's not a better blocker than Kyle Rudolph. He's a slightly better inline blocker than Caden Smith, but he can't be used in that H-back role to be a lead blocker the way Caden Smith is. He added nothing as a receiver. It was just so weird. And again, as soon as they signed Kyle Rudolph, all our conversations weren't necessarily oh, I hate Kyle Rudolph, It was well, they got to trade Evan Ingram because it doesn't make sense with the way they've done things to not trade Evan Ingram. And again, Ingram going into a contract year, coming off of a horrible season, he's probably not going to get re-signed anyways with this Giants team. It was okay, it makes sense to trade Evan Ingram. This is a way to trade Evan Ingram. And again, you couldn't have predicted how bad Kyle Rudolph was going to be this year because he added nothing as a receiver besides, when they don't cover him in a zone. But it's just, this signing frustrated me so much in the moment. And I thought Kyle Rudolph should have started over Evan Ingram to start the season, by the way.
Who was the better tight end this year and who was more valuable to the team? Kyle Rudolph or Evan Ingram this year? I actually think this is a fair question.
You could make the argument for Kyle Rudolph because he was used a lot as a blocker. That Saints game, Kyle Rudolph was the key part of that as a blocker in that game. But at the end, the thing is Evan Ingram had that Raiders touchdown, which was really nice. But Evan Ingram was needed in some games when guys were down, and he just didn't do much. Yeah, outside of that touchdown versus the Raiders, what other Evan Ingram play was oh, that was clutch?
Nothing.
There was nothing. And this wasn't simply just the bad QBs playing at the end of the year. It was the same in that. The best game you could say was against the Panthers, but those were all bootleg block and releases where no one's covering him, So it was yeah, congrats for catching those and running forward. But Kyle Rudolph does that too. You're going to get a couple more yards because you're faster than him. But yeah, it was all out bad year for the tight end room.
Who had the longest offensive play this year for the New York Football Giants?
We talked about this in our tight end review, so I know it was Kyle Rudolph versus the Chargers.
Yes, 60 yards.
Kyle Rudolph wasn't used in the end zone. His one touchdown was a touchdown that anyone could catch.
No one was used in the end zone, in the red zone.
That's fair. And part of that is Daniel Jones not being able to throw a fade.
But also a fade's a bad play. We've been down that road. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's it just was a frustrating signing from the start.
Yeah,
And
the way that I summarize it quickly, then we'll move to, the other guy. Misallocation of resources. I think that's almost one of the best ways to nicely summarize Dave Gettleman's tenure is misallocation of resources. 2018, you take Saquon number 2. You're paying a backup tight end, more than $10 million. You paid Jonathan Stewart. What was that? Something just beeped. You signed Patrick Omame to 3 years, a player that was not very good even when he was with the Jaguars. Player that probably only deserved a 1 or 2 year deal if that's the best case scenario. So misallocation of resources. And I would say the Kyle Rudolph signing was Dave Gettleman's last stamp of that saying.
Well, and when we lost Dalvin Tomlinson, a lot of people point at the Adoree Jackson signing, but I don't. I point at the Kyle Rudolph signing. Now obviously the money doesn't match even, but you don't sign Kyle Rudolph. Maybe you get a cheaper running back than Devonte Booker.
Maybe Kevin Zeitler can stay. Now, I know Kevin Zeitler wasn't exactly thrilled to be a Giant, and I know he took a step back in 2020, but for everybody that was upset about letting Kevin Zeitler go, I mean, like I said, everybody points to Adoree, and Adoree being the big money guy or not bringing back Dalvin, but how important could have Kevin Zeitler been for this offensive line? And that was the difference between signing a guy like Kyle Rudolph, who did nothing, and then having Kevin Zeitler on the team. Or another interior offensive lineman.
Yeah, it's really frustrating the way the stuff Kyle. My lasting memory of him will be him throwing his ass into the skirmish, the Cowboys, walking away, turning his head, seeing there's a fight, and just having zero reaction.
Yeah,
that will always be my lasting memory of Kyle Rudolph. I don't care how many Instagram stories he has. Well,
he should thank the Giants. They gave him a lot of money to do nothing. Like, I would be forever in debt to the Giants if they did that to me, too.
Can't believe he got to wear Jeremy Shockey's number. Just kidding. That's not a big deal. Anything else on Kyle Rudolph? I kind of hate talking about these, because it's like we're revisiting old stuff, but we're clearing cap space.
No, let's move to the other guy.
Well, the next one, we can talk about the future a little more, and it's Devonte Booker, who will be 30 years old this season. Who originally signed a 2-year, $5.5 million deal, was signed on the first day of free agency. The first free agency signing of the Giants, a guy who had never rushed for 100 yards. The cut saves $2.1 million, $1 million of dead cap. He tied with Saquon as the leading rusher, even though he had less carries. He had more receiving yards on a catch less than Saquon Barkley as well. So this was a signing me and you didn't like because it was like, you can find a backup running back for a lot cheaper than this. And also, Devonte Booker had kind of never done anything in his career to get this contract, even if you thought he was better than what he has shown. Like, you were clearly overpaying for Devonte Booker. And that's why you have to cut him in year 2 instead of him being on a cheap, friendly team deal. This is, he would have counted $3.1 million against the cap. Like, our backup running back who had a decent year, we should be able to keep that guy.
Do you prefer James Conner or Devonte Booker as
James Conner?
James Conner got a 1-year, $1.75 million deal from the Cardinals. So again, misallocation of resources. Day 1 of free agency, giving Devonte Booker a 2-year, $5.5 million.
And the fact that there's $1 million of dead cap in this season. Like, you pushed $1 million of dead cap into this season for your backup running back, who again is being cut. He's being cut. And you push $1 million of dead cap into it, and that stuff adds up. It really does. Maybe if you didn't have these pushing this here, maybe we're saying hey, you know what? I want to trade Saquon Barkley for a 4th round. Maybe we're having that conversation a little more. Signed on day 1. So now the Giants running back room is Saquon Barkley, Antonio Williams, Gary Brightwell, and Sandro Plaskimmer, even though Sandro Plaskimmer doesn't really count. Because I think he can only do the international roster spot, only lasts for 2 years. Running back's going to have to be addressed, right? Whether, like you said, it's bringing in another backup for a $1 million deal, even though that would kind of then you have the $1 million plus that, or adding it in the draft. Regardless of whether you get rid of Saquon or not, I don't think this next regime is going to have any value for Gary Brightwell which is I wish we would have taken a running back who could have played running back instead of just a special teamer last year in the 6th round. And again, I hate doing these bitch fest podcasts, but running back is low-key a need. And if we trade Saquon Barkley, it's obviously a need. I hope whatever pick they trade, if they do trade Saquon, is like they use that pick on a running back.
Would be ironic. They did meet with Isaiah Spiller during the combine. So that is one of the names that has been confirmed, and I'd be down to draft. I'd be down to sign. I have larger aspirations for the running back room outside of cutting Devonte Booker.
What do you think about the argument that Devonte Booker came in and did what he was supposed to do? He averaged 4.2 yards per carry behind a bad offensive line. He added stuff as a receiver, and he was an efficient blocker, which is like Devonte Booker. And we said this at the time, even though we didn't like the signing. Like, he is an upgrade to Wayne Gallman. I know people love Wayne Gallman, but he was an upgrade to Wayne Gallman. He's more well-rounded. Wayne Gallman needed the volume to be a good running back. Booker didn't need that, but he also could do well with volume. He added more as a receiver. Wayne Gallman didn't add anything as a receiver, and blocking, he was miles better as a blocker.
I never had a problem with Devonte Booker. Never.
Yeah, like, I think if there's one player, it's like you're satisfied with his season on the Giants offense, outside of Andrew Thomas, it might be like Devonte Booker at 2. It's probably like it's Andrew Thomas, Sterling Shepard, and then Devonte Booker is like, for what your expectations were, you're satisfied.
Yeah.
And even you can argue too, because Shep got hurt.
The only blowout that we had this year where I left MetLife Stadium early was when he had a 20-yard touchdown, and I think that was against the Panthers. He capped off that game with a 20-yard touchdown, and I went home.
Word. That's important.
Yeah. A fond memory.
Yeah, I know. That catch versus the Chiefs was pretty nice, too.
Oh, yeah, and then he went up the middle of the field, and he got like a 50-yard gain, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so, again, we'll look at some free...
That was a working play, by the way. That play, and Saquon, really bad play. That play of, like, running backs just, like... I don't even want to call it a screen, but it was just simply, like, Daniel Jones or whoever looking at a part of the field and then just throwing it to the running back who's, like, on the line of scrimmage. That was a play that was working for a couple weeks, and I was, like, talking about that on the show. Oh, boy.
I don't want to revisit the Saquon trade stuff much, but Dan Duggan said he's talking to sources around the league, and they think a 4th round is the value, which means that when they say 4th round is the value, it means that you can get it. You probably, if they really want to, they could probably get a 3rd rounder for him.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I do want, but I want to clarify, like, when it says, like, oh, people say it's around a 4th rounder, well, it's like that means a team's going to give a 3rd rounder for him, if that makes sense. It makes sense. Now, as we get closer to a decision maybe being made, it kind of does suck. I'm not going to do the whole Giants failed Saquon speech more than Saquon failed the Giants, because Saquon definitely didn't live up to his part after the first year or two. But it does suck that we have, like, this guy who could have been an amazing player at a position, and it's like, this is where we are, where we're basically, like, throwing him. There's a chance they just, like, kind of just move on from him for a draft pick that more likely than not won't be an impact player. Like, there's a chance he could be, and you want more bullets. It makes sense, but it does kind of suck when you think about it in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to be even more Debbie Downer than you, but there are a lot of people that could have seen this exact scenario coming in 2018. And I don't want to say that I fully did. I fully predicted the future, but taking Saquon Barkley at 2 in 2018, especially when you don't have the rest of your team around you, this kind of end is inevitable.
Yeah, it sucks. Taking him at number 2 overall was insane. And again, like, let's build the offensive line so guys like Devonte Booker, who we all said had a pretty decent season behind a bad offensive line, can have really good seasons. Yeah. Like, I don't feel like having the running back conversation over and over again. And I will root for Saquon Barkley to do well. The fan base, deservedly so, has kind of turned toxic towards him.
No, I mean, I think it's kind of split. I mean, there's a lot of people who are still very pro keeping him. And I don't blame anybody who is. I really don't. Because it all kind of depends on what kind of reaction you had in 2018 and whether you were adamantly against it the moment that it happened or, kind of realized as time went on. But I would say this fan base, let's think about this, Bobby, because we talk about, there's different kinds of fans all the time. There's the fans that are refreshing Twitter all the time and are in it every single day. And then are the ones that are in it kind of passively. I think the average Giants fan that isn't on Twitter, that isn't all into the beat reporters and stuff like that, the average Giants fan is going to be like, why did we just trade Saquon Barkley? Even though it makes all the sense in the world, it does make all the sense in the world. But the average Giants fan, like that you just talk to on the street, has an everyday job, is an everyday man, common Joe, is that a phrase? Why did we trade Saquon Barkley? The dude hasn't been healthy. Average Joe. Thank you, common Joe. What? Common man. Why did we trade Saquon Barkley? That dude's going to be like, he's been hurt. He hasn't had a good offensive line. That's what the average fan is going to be like. And that's what I have to kind of keep in my brain, back of my brain at times too.
Well, that does suck. Like, it does suck that's like, that's also true. Like, that's why you don't draft a running back and not take the offensive line serious.
Right.
Like it's kind of like a chicken or the egg situation, even though it was the chicken that came first.
Yeah. All right. I want to talk about, I think this is the most important piece of news that came out this week because Booker was expected. Rudolph is expected. I actually laid out a 9-step plan for the Giants to get to $30 million in cap space, not including restructuring Leonard Williams or Kenny Golladay. And I'm 2 for 2 so far. Shocker. But in the exact order, too, Rudolph and Booker. I have Riley Dixon and Blake Martinez as my next 2. So we'll see if my plan is coming to fruition. But the news that Dunleavy put out report about Sterling Shepard. I want to talk about that, and I want to get your thoughts. And if this happens, then maybe this happens, and what can possibly happen from there.
Well, my thoughts are when Covington and Masvidal step into the octagon this Saturday at UFC 272, DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. I've gotten better at not saying UCF. Has a knockout offer for new customers. Bet just $1 on the main event and get $100 in free bets. No matter what. Could be a first-round knockout, majority draw, or double knockouts resulting in a no contest. No matter the outcome, you get paid. The whole, when I hear double knockout resulting in a no contest, that reminds me of Evan Neal going up against Trayvon Walker. Check out that breakdown on the Talking Football channel.
Wow.
They both use their hands really well, and it's like a no contest a lot of times.
An ad within an ad.
Which is a win for Evan Neal. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still feel the thrill of UFC 272 with DraftKings free to play pools. Everyone can enter a free pool with $10,000 in prizes. Answer a handful of questions like how long the fight will last and who will walk out a winner, and follow along to track your results. Which, by the way, Danny King needs to tell me, is this a fight I should watch? Danny King is my taste tester on hey, I'm an average sports fan, but sometimes I like to tune in. Should I tune in for this? So let me know, Danny King. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code JOHNBOY. Throw down just $1 on the UFC 272 main event and get $100 in free bets, no matter the outcome. That's code JOHNBOY this Saturday at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. 21 plus. Restrictions apply. See show notes for details. All right, and we don't have to read those long disclaimers anymore. Remember, we had that question, what's going to happen when this gets bigger? It's nope, they just have to read the freaking description, people.
No, it's just a lot of notes in the episode notes. Tyquan Thornton ran a 4.21. Have you ever heard of him?
No, I have not.
No. Okay, well, now we'll look into him.
All right, so Ryan Dunleavy reported this morning that the Giants have offered Sterling Shepard to take a pay cut, which would be around the league minimum, which is kind of interesting because Shep's coming off of the injury. So it's what is Shep going to garner as a free agent coming off the injury? Would it be better to stay with a team that he's comfortable with and then hit free agency in the next season, obviously a year older? And I don't know if I'm down for this or not. I know Research Rick, who we gave a new nickname today, pointed out, maybe they can do not expected to be earned per game incentives, which would go into the 2022 or 2023 cap, which I don't know if I'm a fan of that, pushing stuff on for a guy who's ultimately probably not going to be part of the long-term plan here. Say Shep's getting older. But, I mean, if he's willing to take the vet minimum, I feel like it'd kind of be a no-brainer, right? I know there's an extra $1 million you got to pay, or, million, like million, 1.2 million you got to pay. But it kind of seems like that would be worth it, right?
Yeah, so if they cut him, they could save $4.5 million, but add $7.99 million in dead cap. So they're going to add $8 million in dead cap. Now, he is set to make $8.475 million next year. But if it is around the league minimum with a player with at least 6 years of service time, it's $1.035 million.
Well, yeah, and that's why you could do exactly what Nate Solder did, really. That's what I could do. But here's the thing I'm going to say. I don't think Sterling Shepard's going to take this.
Now, I mean, the report is that, the Giants asked Sterling Shepard to take a huge pay cut. Not that he would be willing to take one, but did I see something today that he would be willing to take one from somebody serious?
He's considering it. Someone said he's considering it, but to me, I do not think he's going to willing to take this. This is a
But do you think
story.
He could get more in the open market coming off a major injury?
More than $1 million, yes.
Okay. What's his timeline injury-wise? I mean, this is
he could be back for week 1.
Okay.
Lorenzo Carter, think about Lorenzo Carter's timeline and think about him being a full go in spring camps.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Or in the summer, whenever it was.
I would be very down to have Sterling Shepard back for $1 million. And then that basically means to me that Darius Slayton is almost a bye-bye.
I agree, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Shep's going to accept that.
And there's a part of me that almost would rather... I want to save money. And I think the Giants right now want to save as much money as possible. They're not viewing 2022 as a wash, but I think they're viewing 2022 as a wash in terms of their cap situation, where they just want to get in a healthy spot so they can be in a good spot for years to come, which they already are good for years to come, I think. But they're trying to set themselves up. It makes more sense money-wise to obviously give him that league minimum, because you save more money if he's actually on the team and you have that league minimum. But also, it makes sense for the Giants just depth-wise if you get the injury-prone player kind of out the door, possibly draft a wide receiver this year, bring somebody else in that can maybe be a solution in terms of depth. That also makes sense.
Yeah, but if he's willing to take the vet minimum, I want to do it.
Yeah,
but I just don't think Shep is going to accept that. I don't know why he would. I know we talk about he loves being a Giant and stuff, and it's going to hurt to see Shep go. Like Saquon, it's going to hurt to see Shep go as well. But it's a business at the end of the day, and Shep shouldn't take less money than what he can get. So yeah, it would be cool, but I just don't see it happening unless you did the not expected to be earned per game bonuses, which I don't think they should do. If they're clearly not, if they're really trying to not push cap into the future, then they shouldn't do something like that.
No.
I think we're going to get out of this draft with a wide receiver too, by the way.
I think we should. I think we 100% should, because depth is a problem at every level. And you're looking at Kenny Golladay as a guy who has problem with injuries. Kadarius Toney as a guy who has problems with injuries. I think we should be adding a wide receiver, third, fourth, fifth round, et cetera, et cetera. So, and the NFL teams have had pretty good track records, including the Buffalo Bills with, Gabriel Davis. The NFL teams have had some pretty good track records of adding productive receivers in day 2, day 3. So, I'm looking forward to doing exactly that, hopefully this draft season. I think they should have in 2020. The Juwan Jennings of the world, the Tyler Johnsons of the world. I could be getting the draft classes wrong, but those guys are day 2, day 3 draft picks that we like. We're just sitting home and we like these guys, and they're productive for their respective teams.
Giant Stories. It's a segment where we look at the Giants players' Instagram stories. We get to know them. We got some questions about why are you doing this, because it's fun. It's fun to kind of get to know these guys. It's a personality-driven show.
Yeah, and also, This was a Bobby idea segment, and I really do like this because these guys have personalities and they are people. And they're not just athletes that, have receptions, yards, touchdowns, interceptions, fumbles, tackles, sacks. They're people too. And I kind of like that we highlight that.
Does this segment make it harder when we cut guys, though?
Oh, 100%, because then it's the whole clicking the unfollow on Instagram thing that you ceremoniously do.
It was very fun to do the Kyle Rudolph, I will say. It was very fun to hit unfollow. Post a lot of Instagram stories, and I literally never care about any of them, so it was definitely a fun unfollow for Kyle Rudolph.
Wow.
And Booker is a boring Instagram follow. He's just a boring person in general. Like the most low-key person ever, so that one didn't hurt. Shep's going to hurt, though. Shep is going to hurt. Cue the music. Leonard Williams was down in Miami at a wealth summit. He loves going to those, and he was spearfishing. Blake Martinez was at the zoo. Colin Gillespie was fishing on a boat, and he was practicing long snapping. Apparently, he's the backup long snapper. Billy Price is on vacation in Maui, which is in Hawaii. Matt Parrott was at a Rangers game with Blake Martinez, who was at the zoo. Blake Martinez being very busy. Is he enjoying his final days of the New York life? We don't know. And Corey Cunningham maybe had the best one of all. He was a mystery reader for a class, and he was asking the students for their snacks, and specifically a Swiss roll, and then took this little girl's Swiss roll. Justin, what piques your interest?
Corey Cunningham takes food from children. Headline.
Go if it's still up, go look at his Instagram story, people. It's actually really funny. Like, I don't think he actually took it, but like he was there, like there's a mystery reader thing.
Sure.
Where there's like some famous people, they come and read to the class, So it's like, hey, and his voice is so deep, like, hey, y'all got any snacks? Like, hey, y'all who got snacks? What you got?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
She's like, I got chips. Anybody got a Swiss roll? I do. Oh, let me get that. And then some girl's like, "You joking?" He's like, nah, give me that Swiss roll.
That's a beautiful plan. I want to go and get free snacks. Let me read to children. Take the snacks from them.
We know some teachers that are listeners of this podcast, which is a little scary. I would love to be a mystery reader.
I was a teacher.
You should have had me as a mystery reader, but you did high school. They don't do mystery readers.
High school boys, no, not fun.
I would love to be a mystery reader for any teachers out there. Which is it sometimes weirds me out when I think about our listeners. Like, we know there's like lawyers that list, like there's a lot, like I always think about like the jobs of people. It's like there's one show I listen to that's like a comedy show, and it's kind of out there. And it's like, they'll have like call-ins, and they'll be like, I'm a teacher. And it's like the things they're saying. It's like, I can't believe you teach children. Let me just say it. Tim Coffey is a teacher. Like, that blows my mind. He shouldn't be allowed to teach children, but it is what it is.
It does blow our mind.
And there's other teachers in the community as well. Maybe they're probably better suited than Tim Coffey.
How did I teach for an entire year? I have another one. The second one that
didn't some of your students like recognize you?
Yeah, it was kind of weird. Yeah, it was particularly one, and then there was a incoming freshman this year that is in the center in which I worked, that I actually bought him some merch, and I sent it over to my friend who worked, Renato Rodriguez. I sent it to his house so he can bring it to the kid, and he loved it. But yeah, there was one student in particular that like recognized me. It's like, is this you? Your Instagram? I'm like, yeah. The second giant story that sticks out to me, I always like this to hear who hangs out with who. Did not expect Matt Parrott and Blake Martinez to be chilling together.
Well, I know Matt Parrott's a hockey guy. Like, he was at a bunch of the Islanders hockey games last year during the playoffs. But yeah, I think everyone kind of just likes Blake, and Blake likes to go do things, and he'll like, hey, you want to do this or something. But Matt Parrott's more of a bro than you would realize, I think.
You're kind of bros with Matt Parrott.
No, but I'm just saying a bro.
Oh, a bro.
Yeah. And I don't want to say anyways. Blake Martinez was also at the zoo. I went to the zoo for the first time in a long time on Sunday.
The Bronx?
It didn't say, but I was at the Brevard Zoo.
fun fact about Brevard County. I just read a story about how somebody got arrested in Brevard County today on Simple Man Radio.
Throwing cookies. Check out Simple Man Radio for that. But the zoo's actually a really good time. I love going to the zoo, even though I hadn't been there in 10 years. I'm a little pissed off because I didn't realize the giraffes kind of leave the area where you can touch them at a certain time. So we went, like, that was the last place we went, and it was like, yeah, they're not going to come up here anymore. So I was a little pissed off by that.
How does it feel to be the same height as a giraffe?
You're a giraffe. That's
Zing!
Yeah. I love giraffes. I always called him Jeffrey. If I had a giraffe, I'm a big, like, name a pet after a famous thing of that animal.
Yes.
So, like, if I had a giraffe, I would name it Jeffrey.
When I was in the YMCA as a child in a summer camp, I rode horses. I was very good. And my horse was named Appy the Appaloosa. Hence why my dog, who sits on my face, his name is Mikey. The breed name is Mickey. Mikey the Mickey. And I like that. I like that shit, naming it after the breed.
I had goldfishes, and I named them Orangey after...
Excuse me?
I named them Orangey after Ricky and Trailer Park Boys.
Orgy.
Orangey. Orangey.
I heard the formal.
Blair Stewart in the chat says he's an author of 4 children's books. I kind of want to read those, to be honest.
Oh, that is awesome.
All right, Justin, let's finish off. Is there anything else you want to hit on? I know you want to talk about maybe some of the combine meetings.
Yeah, I mean, this is just what we know. It's nothing like official. The Giants, as a football team and every football team, they get to meet with 45 players, 20 minutes each during the combine. And as of March 3rd, 8:50 p.m., here's what we know. The Giants have had formal meetings with Trey McBride, tight end, Greg Dulcich, tight end from UCLA, Trey McBride's from Colorado State. They've had a formal meeting with Tyler Linderbaum, and formal meeting with QB Matt Corral, Jack Cohen, I believe from Notre Dame, both QBs. Unspecified meetings, Traylon Burks, who's a wide receiver, O-lineman Zion Johnson, who we really like, offensive lineman Charles Cross, which makes me worried, offensive tackle Luke Fortner, and running back Isaiah Spiller. And those are the meetings that at least we know of right now, and Bobby was talking to me before the show. It's basically why we know of these meetings is the media asks, hey, did you meet with the Giants? Yes, I did. And then we've recorded them. Or I shouldn't say we. Dan Benton, our friend from the Giants Wire, has an active blog going on right now of prospect meetings scorecard, which check that out.
Yeah, definitely check that out. I hope they trade back, man. Like, a lot of these guys are like in the trade back territory. Like, I really, if Ekwonu and Neal aren't there at 5, I want them to trade out of 5 because then I know you're going to get a great player at 7 most likely. I want them to trade out of 5.
What about so here's the thing. I'm really rooting for Kyle Hamilton to go before in top 4. I'm really rooting for him to go because then I think that'll be one of the players that we like will fall. But if not, then yes, I am with you with 5. But what? So you said if Ekwonu and this is so early. I hate that I'm even asking you this question. If Ekwonu or Neal are gone, but Thibodeau is there, do you still want to trade out of 5?
Yes, because I like Ahmad Gardner from Cincinnati a lot. There's Kenyon, like, there's guys I like
More than him.
There's even other. No, but I'm saying that, like, I feel really good about my first round pick if I get like Ahmad Gardner at 7. You know, I would rather have Kayvon Thibodeau than Ahmad Gardner, but I feel better about a trade out.
Yeah, and I feel like a priority for the Giants this draft season should be to continuing to garner draft capital. So when you're in a position where you want to get a quarterback, you will have the draft ammo to go up and trade up and get that quarterback without putting yourself at too much of a deficit in years to come. That's my thinking right now.
Yeah, I'm less into the like, oh, get the draft capital to trade up for a QB, and more so I just want the draft capital.
Well, that's why I think it's important, because the Giants are in a situation where they're looking at getting a quarterback. If Daniel Jones was in his second or his third year, it's a different story. But Daniel Jones we talked about this a couple episodes. He's probably I say there's a 90% chance that he has 1 year left. I am 100% thinking about what are we going to do at quarterback? Like that needs to be very much part of Joe Shane's vision right now, the Giants' vision. Like what are they doing at quarterback? So I am thinking about it.
Okay. All right, do you got anything else? It's a short episode, but I feel like that's okay. We did 3 this week.
Yeah, no. Everybody have a good weekend. We're going to be doing some fun things this weekend in New Jersey, Bobby not included, but you'll hopefully see that very soon. We've been working hard on it. And we'll actually have a combine roundup on Tuesday.
Maybe, depending on what kind of news happens. All right, we appreciate you guys. We'll see you on Tuesday. Again, have yourself a really good weekend. Enjoy your weekend. I know I'm going to enjoy mine, so you guys enjoy yours. We appreciate you. Teach those youths out there. Get them youths right for all the teachers in our crowd. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you on Tuesday. Until then, let's go Big Blue.